Welcome to Toffee TV. Me and Andy looked last week at centre-backs that Everton could potentially target based on some data. And we're doing the same this week for midfield players. The midfield of Everton, which is one huge headache, one huge black hole of misery. That's what it looked like last season. We're hoping
sucks in all light and darkness. Yeah.
We're hoping that this season it will be different. We know that from various reports Everton are looking at central midfield players, so we've put together a player profile, what we think they need, and we're going to go through. We've got a couple of options to look at. So the player profile we've looked at is got to be athletic, have a good engine, which I think is essential because Everton's don't look like they are. A ball winner.
Yep, so we can turn over possession and get us on the front foot, yeah. Yeah,
good positional sense.
Big key issue, if you look at that, especially the game against Chelsea, everyone remembers, and obviously more recent games, people passing through the midfield because the centre midfielders are really wide, leaving big gaps in areas, need people to stay in the positions and keep the structure.
Yeah, disciplined, again.
Same similar thing, yeah.
Good anticipation. Trying to nick the ball,
reading the game, yeah.
Get us going, get turnovers, and somebody progresses the ball forward. Because I mean, the manager said this when he come in, probably maybe even like 4 weeks into it, even though we were doing all right, said we don't pass the ball forward enough, and that was a theme that went right the way through till the final game of the season against Bournemouth.
You've got two young fast strikers. You want to try and hit them early and often, so that 1-on-1, 2v3, whatever it may be. And we don't. We tend to pass the side, and it gives teams. It happened on the Silva as well. To be fair, I think it's and Martinez as well. We just allow teams too much time to reset. If you start putting the ball through the lines, they start panicking. Then we just don't do it enough. We just allow teams too much time to get in the positions, and we lose the momentum really and the impetus really.
And that's a big thing. I think with Everton is that sometimes when we do have the opportunity to turn it over quickly, by the time we get ourselves settled, the defensive team's got the structure back, and we're not quick enough to break them down, and I think it's a clear problem. And I think if Everton are to improve, then this is the area. So the first one, we've got a bit route one with the first one, because it's Allan, and it's someone who obviously Everton have been linked with quite heavily since January, really. But again, so obviously Allan, 29 years of age, is the oldest one that we've got in the mix. He is in there because we know that Carlo Ancelotti's worked with him and he has been linked with Everton. But going through him here, we've got tackles in the middle third of the pitch. Per 90, this is, of course, per game. 1.76 he's managing tackles per game.
Which is good, actually. If you looked at, if you did total numbers, because he hasn't played, because obviously he fell out with the coach, so he's only played just over 1,000 minutes this season. And if you did it comparing to other midfielders who played 2,000 and 3,000 minutes, slightly unfair. So if you do per 90, obviously gives us a better look at it. And in this case, 1.76 it's up in the higher echelons of Serie A where he's playing in terms of doing that. For example, Gylfi Sigurdsson has just over 1, surprisingly. I know other Everton centre midfielder has more than 1 per 90, so right. That's a massive difference.
So he's almost got. I mean, he's almost
full,
up at 2.
Well, up a full 1 tackle a game, yeah.
So pressing in the middle third per 90.
So pressures basically means that obviously you're causing the player to go back, pass it backwards. You're causing them to make a mistake, bad touch, whatever. Allan does this 15 times a game. We've talked about it before with Allan in terms of he's driving an impetus into the team to try and push teams back, putting them under pressure, rather than letting them do what they want on the ball under no pressure at all. Which I think, unfortunately, with playing Sigurdsson, Tom Davis, Andre Gomez, they're not those type of ball harassers really. You want someone who harasses them around the pitch, pushes them back, causes them to make mistakes, and obviously he can get turnovers as a result of that. And I think that's what he's good at. That's another good number as well. This is the next one is possession adjusted interceptions per 90, as I talked about last week. Like to possession adjust certain stats just so it's a more level playing field. 5.94 is not on the upper end, but it is good. Serie A is not a pressing league, as I've said. It's not a league that forces you into mistakes as much as maybe the Premier League or Germany, so the numbers do tend to be slightly lower, but that is also a good number. And then we've got progressive passes per 90, 7.5. His accuracy with that is 75%, which is quite good, to be fair. 75% of passes that are either when he's in the opposition half, will go in 10 yards, or when he's in his own half, probably 10 to 15 yards through the lines forward. So that is good as well. And another number, obviously, are progressive runs. That means similar type of distances. If he's in the opposition half, he's carrying it over 10 yards, which means he's pushing the ball forward, carrying it through the lines, or he's starting attacks by carrying it up the pitch, attacking the space when he's in his own half as well.
And that's very important, because I don't think we have anybody really that does that to any great level.
No, Andre Gomez isn't too bad in terms of doing that, but he's not that level, if I'm honest.
Right.
Delph, surprisingly, not played a lot of minutes, whatever reason, wasn't too bad either. Again, though, the rest sorely lacking. Gabam, sadly, it's 1.5. I know it's such a small sample size. It was looked all right, to be fair, compared to, but it's such a small sample. But that's the sad thing, is he would have been a really good addition to the side. I think he would have changed a lot of things for us. But.
Well, Gabam was good at that for Mainz anyway, wasn't he? And that's why Everton looked at him, because he was someone who could either travel with the ball
or win it back.
Or one of the, he's got a great range of passing, and that's obviously why last summer Marcel Brands, Marco Silva as well, probably identified that in him. And I guess that's what, Carlo Ancelotti's been speaking about him this week and saying he spoke to him, and he's in good spirits, and he's working hard, and he's not going to rush him back. And actually said, he had the similar thing, Carlo Ancelotti, in his career. He had 2 big injuries, missed 2 years of football, and
but he didn't have the surgery for it as well.
Didn't have the same level of surgery, and came back and still had a good career. This is what he's saying to him. So, but obviously we're not really looking at Gabam at the minute, because he's got to get himself
future
fit,
option, isn't he? Yeah.
He's hopefully going to go in. But I think Allan, 29 is a big red flag. But the things that, I don't know whether they outweigh it, but things that are the positive side is he's worked with Carlo Ancelotti before. He's played in a 4-4-2, and he does something none of our midfield players do, which is harry, push. He sets the tempo.
Yeah, exactly. He's someone who drives teams forward, and he's like, they call it a terrier, don't they, in midfield. He's always trying to find, and we need that. If you look at the best teams, they always have what I call water. It's a bit of a slight on him, but a water carrier. He is a better player than that, to be fair. But you need those players who are able to win the ball back, put teams under pressure, and then give it to the better players. Everton, as we've discussed most of it, generally have got some nice footballers around the team. We lack that bite, we lack that edge, we lack that energy. And you need those type of players where Garner Gay do it, James McCarthy, Gareth Barry at times. He was more
tempo setters,
yeah,
though.
exactly,
I don't mean necessarily the speed which we play at, but the set the marker
it's
down
infectious,
for people. Peter Reid used to do it, and he was great at that in the 80s. And we had, I suppose, when you're in the 90s, you'd had like Joe Parkinson and people like that doing it as you've gone through. And then, Moyes had Lee Carsley, I guess, doing it to a lesser degree, but someone who would break stuff up, but someone who would go and put a tackle in and make your teammates kind of go, I need to be doing that as well, so I'll go and hit it. Because I think we've said many times, Everton team is full of passive players, passive characters. Characters who, when everything's nice, they look good footballers, but the minute there's a little bit of going against them, they all go into the shell. They crumble too easily, and I think people like Allan, he's got that fiery nature about him that will go after the ball.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's a mentality thing as well. Don't be wrong, I've got me worries about Allan. I think he's a good player. Don't be wrong, there's no denying that. I'm not saying he's finished at 29. He isn't. He's never played in this league before, though. Italy, some players have come over here and done well, some players haven't. He's an Italian, to be fair, so that does help him in a sense about coming over here. But it is a slight worry, because if you giving it a 29-year-old a 4 or 5 year deal, you take him into the territory where they are going to be likely to be declining, still paying them big money. So that's something for us to consider. But then you have a look at the positives that, as you say, he does know Carlo, he's played in the system before. Mentality, personality type, he is someone that will help the rest of the team.
What if they offered him a 3-year deal and he was happy with that?
Then fine, yeah. Then,
would that give you a bit more comfort?
Yeah, taking me fine and me personal choices off, yes. I understand it. That, as I said before, sometimes you won't always agree with deals or decisions are made. You have to understand them, and from a manager perspective and from a director of football trying to please the manager and get the right pieces inside, I understand why they go for Allan. Would I do it? No, but that doesn't mean I'm right. It just means that's my personal opinion. I think I completely understand. And he's played at a high level. He's played under some good managers as well, to be fair. One's called Gattuso, that great. He's played with Carlo and Sarri. Whatever you think, Sarri obviously got the best out of him. That's why he moved there.
He was good at Udinese.
Yeah, he was good at Udinese, right? Yeah.
So moving on, then, that's Allan. He was a little bit route one. The next one we've got is one of my. I mean, this is someone who I will buy with Allan.
Yeah.
To be honest, so you've got one for now and one to develop. But this fella, I bang on about him all the time. We both do. We both bang on about him. He's 22 years of age. A lot of growing to do, I mean, in terms of experience, but it is IBRAHIM Sangare at Toulouse. 6'4", got all the attributes I think Everton need. He's the second most tackles in Europe, behind Busquets, I think it was. Someone put something up the other day in terms of breaking the play up. Exactly what Everton need, but just take us through the numbers.
He played like double the minutes Allan played this season, and he played in one of the worst teams I've ever seen in France. Toulouse, they were really bad, and I think it did affect people's opinion of him, and because he plays in such a bad team. But you look at the numbers again, similar again, you've got 1.65 tackles per game. As I said, none of our players really average one, apart from Sigurdsson, which again is still surprising. But again, that's what we need. It was better last season, to be fair. It was better last season. Pressing in the middle, again, France, it's not as good as Allan, but France, again, is not the pressing league. It's actually a league that's weirdly a very old style way of playing. Obviously, Germany, the Gagan pressing and the Pep way of pressing in Spain. That doesn't really apply to France as much. They don't, and obviously the top teams don't need to do it as much as they're so good, like PSG. But that's why the press numbers are. But he can get about the pitch, big long strike, close the space very quickly, and when he can play a number of different roles in midfield. So he can do a box to box role, and he can also do the 6 roles. So he can do either role really. And I think for 12 to 15 million pounds. And the potential, lads, I know there's a couple of worries about certain things, but you're not going to find many. But, again, possession just better than Allan's, really, or just under Allan's, sorry. 6.54, progressive passes, 9.18, which is better than Allan. Actually, his accuracy is 82%, so maybe this technique thing is a bit, don't get me wrong, he's a bit lanky, and he looks a bit awkward sometimes when he runs, but when he gets in full flight, that last season, again, progressive runs this season is down to 1. It was much higher than that last season. I think there's a lot more to come for this lad. He was in a better team. The sky's the limit. There was an article in Goal a year and a half ago, I think it was, about how he could be the next Yaya Toure. I wouldn't go that far because that's quite high, but he has got that ability to do things in the final third, the middle third, the defensive.
He reminds me of Patrick Vieira.
He can be like that, yeah.
That's what he reminds me of.
We've done tackles in the middle third for this because Everton really need to start turning the ball up over the pitch. But again, with these players, similar theme again. With Allan less so because he's in a better team, but with Sangare and the next guy about to show over 1.5 tackles in the defensive third as well, so they're getting back, winning the ball back for the team. So it's very important. This lad is what I would call a ball winner. Last season, second to Gay in Europe in terms of tackles, which we all love Ghana Gay. I'm not saying he's as good as Ghana Gay, but he's a player who can win the ball back, and he's got a great range of passing. Don't be wrong, it still needs to get better in terms of execution, but he's the type of player that, for 12, 15 minutes, why not take a flyer? And at the end of the day, as we've discussed, we're not going to get perfect players. No. We need players who can give the ball to better players, and he's capable of winning it back and driving us forward.
He's an athlete.
Exactly,
he's an athlete, and Everton haven't got enough athletes, and he's at 6'4". I think there's games that we get bullied in, particularly when we've got Tom Davis and Andre Gomez, or Tom Davis and Gylfi Sigurdsson. We just get bullied all over the pitch, and you've got a big monster in this 6'4", can get about the pitch, but can play as well. I think it sets the tempo for the rest of your team as well. But I would certainly, at 12 to 15 million quid, to me, I'm struggling to understand why Everton haven't made a move. I really am, and I don't get it. I've heard a couple of bits and pieces about some concerns over the technical aspect. Like we're the most technically gifted football team on the planet.
I think it's the school of thought, really. I think this is something I hadn't thought about before, but I should have really. And I think you sort of brought it to light to me. Brands comes from the Dutch school, and if you look at the best Dutch teams, they never have destroyers in midfield. They always have finesse midfielders, players who win the ball back, pass it. They don't really buy destroyers. That isn't their game. You look at Frankie de Jong last season. He's not any type. He played a 6, but he's not any type of destroyer. And maybe that's where Brands has to come round to a more half Dutch, half English way of thinking, where you do need a bit of a blend in the Premier League. Even Manchester City. Fernandinho's a great footballer, of course he is, but he does the dirty things. The tactical fouls. You need to be smart, and you need energy in that midfield. And I think that's where we just need to tweak out the way we're signing players in that area, really.
No, I agree. I still maintain Brands has bought good players. Yes. And if he'd have probably bought those players for PSV, they'd be brilliant. Because that league is different. But this is the Premier League, and this is cut and thrust, and this is competitiveness, and this is athleticism. Liverpool, Manchester City, full of athletes. Chelsea have done well this season because they've got more athletic players in than maybe Sarri had. Last year was a little bit slower, and so teams were picking them off. Jorginho was giving the ball away. This year, Lampard's had Mount in there. He's had Barkley in there. Williams back in.
Kovacic is back to his best as well.
So they've had a little bit more. Leicester have done well because they're quite an athletic team. Wolves.
Which, we'll just stop on Ndidi. People, when Ndidi first came to the Premier League, he wasn't the most technically proficient.
No.
Still won the ball back, still give it to better players. And look how well Leicester have done. That's the thing. Again, you can't have 11 world-class footballers. You need Casemiro for Real Madrid. You need those type of players. Casemiro's a very good player, but he also does the dirty work.
Busquets is a good footballer, don't get me wrong, but primarily he's there to
break the play. But he sacrificed a lot of his game to do the day, because no one else does it, which is what you need. Pep did it well, a bit more flashy than Busquets, but that's what you need to do. So I think we just need to change our thinking slightly. I think all the time in the world for people saying, "Oh, I'm worried about his technique under pressure, whatever." We need ball winners at the end of the day, because we need to stop the flow of the game going one way against us.
Primarily, if you break it down, if you can compete and win the ball back, then you give it to your good footballers, and your good footballers do the rest.
Yeah,
but if you can have 11 good footballers in your team, if you can't battle and you can't scrap, it's to me, it's one of the reasons why Everton's away record is so bad. Okay, we ended up with 5 away wins this year. Not great.
Carlo bought us a couple,
great,
didn't he?
But it was more than we've got recent times.
Yeah.
And for me, too many occasions we go away and things are a little bit difficult, the crowd are up a little bit, or there's people getting stuck in. We just wilt, because we might have good footballers in the team. We haven't got competitors in the team. And yet, you think of like Moyes' team. It was able to go and get 9 away wins one season and 8 away wins another without having the greatest footballers.
No, he packed the footballers played in the peripheral wing positions, did the Arteta and Pina, and then you had all the workers in the middle. And it works. I'm not saying we should go back to being the Moyes team, because we need that extra touch of quality.
You just got Salt Bay there.
Yeah, I did go Salt Bay. But you need the people to do that. I always use Juventus as a great example. Paul Pogba, wonderful footballer. However, always needs people to do the dirty. You had Marchisio and Matuidi to do the dirty work. Same with France. If you've got good footballers, you still need people to do the in-between work.
And he's at his best when Matic is playing well for United and doing that for them, isn't he? So Sangare for me is a no-brainer, absolute no-brainer. I still scratch my head as to why we haven't just gone and got it done. 15 million, even if it was 15 million. Get him he's 22, 5-year deal, 3 million a season.
At worst, you're going to have someone who can come in and play. He just offers us something completely different than what we've got. I think the problem with the Premier League is sometimes it's overthought. Sometimes what you need to have these perfect players straight away, and sometimes you don't look at it. As I say, Wilfred Ndidi is a prime example. Yeah,
100%. Next one is someone Everton have been linked with earlier in the year. Baptiste Santamaria at Angers.
What a great name.
Cracking name. 25 years of age, good, 6'1", good passer of the ball, can break stuff up as well. I believe you're looking between, if you believe in reports out of France, between 8 and 15 million euros, which again, to me, is
when Sangare on the price of Allan.
But that's the thing. When we've spent money in the past, we just seem to have spent ridiculous amounts of money on players who aren't physically able to cope in the Premier League.
You look at it, and I was doing a podcast this morning for my company, and we talk about Kepa. Imagine Chelsea had a middle of the league goalkeeper, would have been much better. Imagine Everton had a middle of the league midfield all season. Yeah. We would have been pushing at least Europa League at the end of the day. That's the difference. Now, obviously, we'd all like
Didn't we finished 9 points off Europa League, I think. Or 10 points off the Europa League.
Four games, essentially, yeah.
And we were dreadful. Yeah. But you're right.
Sorry. No, but that's what I mean. But we need just people who can turn the games in our favour with hard work and winning the ball back and doing the little things. And we've stressed that a lot on this one, but it's true. And I think, this lad is a little bit more, what you call a bit more refined, a bit more smoother edges than the Sangare. But he's a bit older, of course, so you've got to factor in. Same with Allan. Allan's obviously 29. He's the player he's going to be now, isn't he? Whereas Baptiste Santamaria, I describe him as basically a more mobile Morgan Schneiderlin who plays it forward all the time, which he is. And now people go, Morgan Schneiderlin.
Terrified,
but if you watch him now, gets about the pitch, he can do the finesse, can do the dirty, great range of passing. Like, you watch the passes, he's putting them on a 20 pence piece over the top of it.
Shoots from 40 yards as well, which I've always got time for. Midfielders winning the ball.
But he just does all the things you need to do. He gets forward, he can get back, he plays, he sometimes ends up on the edge of the box, but he's just someone who's infectious. Like, I was a bit on the fence with him when I first started watching him, because he does remind me of Schneiderlin at times, but not in the bad way. When I say like Schneiderlin, the way he screens the back four, the way he's cultured on the ball, the way he, it's a bit of class about him. But also he can do the dirty stuff as well. And as I say, much more mobile than Schneiderlin, and he moves the ball forward rather than side to side.
He is. Let me just stress that he is much more mobile than Morgan Schneiderlin, and he does pass the ball forward, and he shoots. So really, the fact he's 6 foot and French, I think that's what Andy. Sometimes he has a little goatee beard.
Yeah,
that's probably what it is.
No, it is. It's the style of player more than how they are exactly. Sometimes I'll watch a player in the way they run and go, "Oh, he reminds me so and so." Yeah, but he is a talent, and I think he's gone under the radar. He's probably a bit of a late developer. Again, for the price, we'll look at the numbers here: 1.62, just short of what Sangare is doing in France. Press in the middle, 12.4, best in Sangare. Possessions, that's the lowest one. That I'm not too sure why that's so low, but that might be an outlier. And then progressive passes, 7.36, again, similar numbers to Allan, similar number of accuracy to Allan as well. And progressive runs, it depends. Again, it's not the style of the team. He doesn't do that, and he is very capable. I was watching him last night. He can pick the ball up and move the ball, but I think sometimes he prefers basically the way Angers plays. Sometimes numbers can be affected by tactical. The way Angers played is they usually he would get the ball and then he'd spray the pass 50 yards to the feet, and that's what they do well. And I think in an Everton team, I think he would drive us forward.
He can do the other bits. I've seen him against Arsenal, carry the ball 40 yards and then slide one round the corner and he score from it. I've seen him chasing back and leaving people who were much quicker. In fact, he's on a sprint with Aubameyang on one of the things. He catches Aubameyang up, wins the ball and comes out with it.
He's a good player. And the problem is, I think he's one of those players that people would overlook. He's good at everything. I wouldn't say he's like fantastic. Well, maybe he's passing this because it's pretty fantastic. And people would overlook. But like I said to you last night, he's probably on the list. I've got no doubt. But he might be 5th or 6th rather than 1st because he's not that like flashy. But I think he's the type of player we need.
We're talking here about IBRAHIM Sangare. We're talking about Baptiste Santamaria. We're talking about Everton trying to get people in for Carlo Ancelotti and not without spending ridiculous amounts of money. Don't you think it makes sense that they'd go and get someone like him or Sangare early on? Because for the outlay, like I said, 8 million to 15 million euros I've seen quota for him.
If it was 8 million, for example,
right,
there's no loss.
So why aren't we going, right, you're in day one, get him in, Everton have signed, Baptiste Santamaria, 12 million euros or whatever, job done. Day one in training.
It's probably because there's probably I guess there's maybe higher profile or more options that you think of a higher level, which is what teams tend to do. Often, obviously, you've got lists of between 1 and 10 players in your priority order. And as I say, I suspect that Santamaria is definitely on the list, and he's probably 4th, 5th, 6th. And it's until you get down there, you see probably Allan's probably 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, whatever he is. And there's probably Højbjerg was probably number 1, I guess, since we went from first. And that's the problem. You go down the list. Now, Højbjerg, again, he's not on this video, but he would have been, the numbers would have been perfect, because I think he's higher than most of these, even, but he plays in this league. So our league is much more frenetic and obviously a lot more pressing in this league. But again, that's what the way recruitment's done is obviously you're top flight and then you get there. But these are not lesser people. It's just that they're not as, what's the word? They're not as
sexy. That's
the word. And even to recruit, at the end of the day, people work on recruitment for a human. It's very hard to make a sacrifice though, like that.
Listen, there's been something out today that showing Everton's 4 transfer windows since Mashiri coming, almost £450 million spent. Isn't it time that we started putting the jigsaw together without going, well, you know what, see him over there, he plays for them and he's worth 30 million, he's a good player. Rather than going, he is a decent player, but see this kid here who's 8 million quid, he's going to actually do the job we need, and we don't care whether he's coming from Angers. Can he do the job? Is he physical? Yes. Can he get around the pitch? Yes. Can he pass a football? Yes, right, you're coming in. And you're in because you are physical. The French league is probably the closest to the... Bundesliga is not too far away, to be fair. La Liga is slower, Serie A slower. higher technical, both of them, but slower quality. Bundesliga and French League, but I'd say the French League slightly quicker than the Bundesliga, physique-wise as well, in terms of being able.
How said the centre-backs, how big the defenders are.
So get them in, get them players in and go, let's start piecing the jigsaw, right? When people want to tear everything up, which they did after the Bournemouth game, and I get it. But I look at it, try to look at it and just go, well, hang on, we can't do that for whatever reason. So let's look at how can we make this better? And I still think we've got 8, 9 in this squad who are good players. I do, and I think there's room for a couple more to grow.
Yep.
They have to pull a level up.
Yeah.
If the level stays where they are, they're not good enough. Pull a level up. But then if you start putting the pieces in properly, it makes everybody look better. And then you get through then the next summer, you need 3 or 4 and you get some of them up and you bring them. And then all of a sudden you've gone up. Whereas Everton just seem to still be a little bit grabbing and hoping.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a lot of the midfield is our main issue, really. I think, you know, and it's true that we're not looking for. It's hard to say what they're looking for because I'm not in the room, and you know it is. But we need to find these solutions for the right price. And they're not. They don't always have to be £30 million players. They don't to find solutions.
Take the pressure off them as well.
You know, Liverpool signed Wijnaldum. You know, when he got relegated with Newcastle. Jordan Henderson, they tried to sell, by the way, before Klopp got there. You know,
tried to sell him when Klopp got there.
Exactly. You know, Fabinho was a right back in France, and he could play a bit of defensive midfield for thing. But all these players have worked out for them. Milner, you know, again, got him on a free, we plugged them in. You don't always have to spend, like, you know, I know they've got Naby Keita, but there's other teams who've done it as well. You don't always need these, like, premium centre midfielders from Champions League clubs or trendy clubs like Lille, or I don't know, like Boubakary Soumaré, but you need those players who are going to allow your players to play. And I think with the wingers as well, they've got, you know, don't get me wrong, Iwobi, Bernard, Gordon, Walcott, whoever else comes in, they all need to go up a level no matter what. But I think if you've got midfielders who pass the ball forward and find them when they want the ball early, rather than, because we're passing the ball back, they all have to come into their own half to get the ball. You don't want people in their own half all the time. You want people on the half turn pushing up the pitch, which is where they're all best at.
Well, they do the damage on the edge of people's box.
Exactly. So. You don't, and exactly. So these are the type of midfielders that we need. Winning the ball early and transitioning quickly is what we need.
Well, there's one more on the list, and this fella is on the list because he's been linked with us. He's played in the Premier League. He's good stature, good footballer, and it is Abdoulaye Doucoure at Watford. Now, I know I'm just going to give you the plus points, and then you can
give me all the plus points you like.
You can poo-poo the idea all you want. And this isn't me saying I want him. I'm just saying a reason why I think he would improve Everton, without not even looking at his numbers just at the moment. But he's over 6 foot.
6'2", yeah.
He can get up and down the pitch, gets around the pitch really well. And the one thing he's got that none of the other ones have got that we've put on, and nobody at Everton have got in a central position, is he scores goals.
He does.
He gets into the penalty area and puts the ball in the net.
More than any other centre, he gets to the penalty area. Last season, I haven't checked numbers this season, more than any other centre midfielder in Europe.
Now, what I would say is he's been at Watford 3 seasons. First season he got 7, second season he got 6, last year he got 4. But he's had...
They got worse also.
Yeah, I think but they were poor. Yeah. And I think his assists are somewhere about 5 in each season.
Yeah.
Like, those kind of numbers are better than any of our 100%. Wingers or midfield players. And I get it. I think if he played in our midfield, he wouldn't be able to play with Gomez probably. That's because neither of them can do that job. If you put 3 in there, then maybe you could. If you had one who could do the job on those 2, I think that'd be quite a nice mix of midfield. Yeah. I think if you put him in with someone like Santamaria or Sangare or even Allan, maybe, I think he'd be fine. So they're all the plus points for me. The goal thing is huge, I think, and the Premier League experience, because he's somebody who, if you got 5 goals from a central position in midfield for Everton, it'd make a huge difference. A huge difference. He's good on the ball as well, a good runner. So they're all the positive stuff for him. Negative stuff is he's going to be 28 this season. Watford probably won 25 million, I guess, for him. Maybe they want him out the club now and off the wage bill. Who knows? I still don't think 25 million is that much of a stretch for someone with Premier League experience who's different to what we've got. Go.
For example, right, if we were looking for someone to play with Gabaman, then I'd probably be all for it, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, sans the age, I'd probably be all for it because
Yeah.
Gbamin can sit, he moves on. The issue is, right now, is without Gbamin being fit, we've still got Tom Davis, we've got Andre Gomez, we've got Gylfi Sigurdsson, hopefully not all of them next season.
Yeah.
He goes to that category, though, because he isn't a defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, he can play defensive midfield, but Etienne Capoue is the ball winner in that midfield.
I know that.
And he's the structure of that midfield, and what we need is someone to add structure to the midfield.
But shouldn't we be looking for two?
No, I agree. I agree with that part of it, but the problem is, I think we need two
Defensive midfield.
But not only that, because Gbamin can play box-to-box. His last season for Mainz, he played as box-to-box, because Pierre Kunde played defensive midfield. It's really key, though, that we sign... If you played them in Gomez, we're still going to have the same structural problems. And obviously, about Gbamin, I don't be wrong too, but if it's, I go on the basis that it's probably going to only be one. I think we need two. I've got no doubts about that. But I go on the basis that it'll only be one, because I don't think we're signing 5 players, and I think we need 4 positions. So, if it's one, it can't be him being the one, because he doesn't have that structure, that screen in the back 4, the ball winning ability. Because we'll just look at his numbers a second.
Yeah.
Similar numbers to Tom Davis in terms of tackles, which, don't be wrong, I think he's better than that, because he can win the ball. But pressing, good, because we press in this league, that more
so
Allan
13.24 presses per game.
Yeah,
That's
presses
good.
in the middle third. Possession similar to Santamaria, not as high as it should be, but whatever the reason that is. And progressive passes 5.35, and that's his main issue. You see, he's better as an off-ball runner into the box rather than someone in build-up. Now, if he was playing with Gomez, fine. But I think if the midfield, and I actually don't think he's that great technically. I think he's good technically. I don't think Sangare is much worse, though, which is the funny point about him. I think under pressure, Doucoure can sometimes make the bad decisions, the wrong pass. So that's why I have the issue with that Sangare, Ibrahim Sangare not being good enough technically or whatever. We'll move on from there. I think Doucoure's a good player, and what you do say about him getting in the box is really key, because we just don't have that. We haven't had that since probably Osman or KO. KO was a bit further forward, but the similar type of player. Got near the box and scored 4 or 5 a season every season in Osman's case. It's just that it's again, this is more the talents, yes. The fit, no, and that's I think, like I say to people, you can have we can want all the talent in the world. People like, we want sign so and so. You have to fit. You have to be the right fit for Everton. And sadly, at this point in time, a box-to-box midfielder like Doucoure of his type isn't the right fit for what we need. But he is a good player. There's no doubt about that. I think sadly for him, a move probably is coming a year and a half too late, maybe. If he moved in Silva's first season to us, I think he was one of the 3 players, Richarlison, Andre Carrillo. Where's he now? We're going to come. And if he got them then, great. Imagine him in Ghana Gay, you know what I mean? That would have been perfect. But we didn't. And I think he's a bit... I think he'll probably get a good move somewhere, but I don't think it's the right time for him in Everton anymore.
1.76 progressive runs
which is his key, because he can drive. If you watch him, there's been a couple of times where he's picked the ball on the edge of his penalty and they've ended up in the box nearly. He can do that. A big, powerful runner, strong, attacks the space well, knows how to put the defenders on the back foot. Again, though... Andre Gomez should be that type of midfielder for us. We'll see whether that happens, but I think we need someone to add. The key is cutting down on the amount of easy chances that come through midfield, because you're leaving too much pressure on your centre backs.
What if we went for 2 though?
Then
would that make it easier for you?
If it was him and Santamaria, then yes, because then you'd have the 4. Then so you'd have Gbamin, who can play defensive midfield. You'd have Santamaria, so you'd have them 2, and then you'd have the 2 box-to-box players. And then you've also got Gbamin, who can play with any of them really, because he can play both positions. Then yes, but I don't see
it. If he's a 1, if it's 1, then no. But
that's
fair enough.
27 as well. If you get before your deal, 31, fine. I don't think he's going to. I don't think he's going to. He starts. It's honestly, he's a late starter. I don't think he starts playing first team football. He's 22, 23 anyway. So he's got a lot of mileage left.
No, well, that's fair. I mean, that's fair enough. If you're talking about one position,
that's the way I look at it.
One sign, and then no, he probably isn't.
Yeah, it has to be. Yeah.
If it's going to be 2, and you're looking to match it up, then definitely. I think he makes sense, because he's got the experience. There's no need for him to acclimatise. He knows the game, gets up and down. Can he compete? Yes, he can. Got something we haven't got, which is goals in him, which we don't have. Makes a massive difference, I think. Definitely. But there you go. That's me and Andy gone through some possible options for central midfield. It's a massive area. It's why I would certainly be looking for 2 this summer, no doubt about it. And if it was Allan for 30 million, or if it was Sangare and Santamaria for 30 million, I know which I'd be taking. And that's not me saying I don't want Allan. That's just me saying it makes sense to get 2 in an area which we are poor, let's be honest about it. So big thanks to you, and let us know what you think in the comment section below. Out of the ones we've chosen, which you think fits Everton best, or is the people we've missed off who you think we should have had in here as well. This is just us looking at some profiles and what we think Everton need. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't. If you haven't, why haven't you? And if you want more videos, get over and join us on Patreon. Me and Andy will be doing this kind of stuff throughout the season as well. See you later.